So I'm joined by Catherine Graves, and she is a third-year graduate student at Yale University, and yet she's still not immune to all of the racism and the hatred that we've been seeing on TV and all over the world right now. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us for this iWoman report.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And let me just start by apologizing. I know there's nothing that we can do. And let me also just say I overstand. I've been, in these kinds of situations far too many times, as have everyone that I know, but it still doesn't feel good. So I'm sorry that you had to face this type of hostility, but take us back to what actually happened and what made you think to even pull out your camera.
Sure. So I was just walking in New York. I was walking from Grand Central to my partner's apartment on the Upper East Side. And I had stopped at a street and was vaguely aware that someone somewhere was shouting, but I was listening to music as I always do when I walk around. And it wasn't until I had started to cross the street that I realized that the person yelling was this woman in front of me who was directing her words at me. And so because I have my phone in my hand already, I figured I should start recording. I took out an earbud and realized the content of her words was very racially charged, and so my instinct was to get it on video.
Obama's right next to his ape wife. Barack Obama's ape wife. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ape, you apes. What's the matter, you apes? What's the matter? You got time to do your hair? What's the matter? You got time to do pink ass hair, you Obama ape.
You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. We're gonna find you online and you're gonna lose your job.
It's unbelievable. And we certainly heard it, and there were far too many expletives to be able to repeat on this show today. But did this surprise you? Is this the first time that you had experienced something like this?
It surprised me in that I've never experienced something this blatant and this aggressive, but the racial content doesn't surprise me given that our country has not yet grappled enough with racism in its history to eradicate this kind of behavior from society in general.
Right. You said you hadn't really experienced this type of hostility. Do you think that there is a difference that between what some people might experience? Is it skin color? Is it socioeconomic divide? But why do you think that maybe this would be the first time that you've experienced something like this?
I think it just depends on sort of what spaces you're in. And so I myself, even though I am African American, I also have some, educational privilege, some socioeconomic privilege. So I'm not in spaces where different intersections of privilege might promote more racist ideologies to come out. And so this was just an instance where all kinds of people exist in New York, and it just happened to be that she and I crossed paths. But I do think that my other privileges that I've experienced in my life have shielded me from having these experiences more often.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea, because likewise, I mean, I've definitely, like I said, faced my fair share of situations. In fact, there's one that comes to mind right now, that I was on a Disney cruise with my family, and I faced something very similar to what you faced. I didn't have a camera, but it was unbelievable. And it's a story that my young son at the time will never get out of his mind. And it was you people, and you people have taken our jobs, and now you people want to, it was the most ridiculous thing. In fact, it was over one of those chairs next to the pool that we were sitting at, and she felt like, first you've taken our jobs, now you're taking our lounge chairs by the pool. And it was like, this is ridiculous. But that hostility is there. It's very prevalent in our country right now. How do you feel watching everything that you're seeing on the news?
Tired often. I find it exhausting. I think that it's just exhausting as a Black person to just see sort of the same story happen over and over again with what feels like not a sufficient response. And I think that what's critical right now is that people are keeping their eyes on the media, and keeping their eyes on the news, and keeping their eyes on events a bit more than maybe has previously happened. And that might be a function of COVID, and people aren't working, so they have time to engage. And I do still also feel hopeful. I hope that, I've been to some of the protests, I've donated money. I think I've, hopefully done some of my part. I also feel a little bit more hopeful that maybe something will stick this time. There is something about these specific instances right now, starting with what happened to George Floyd and onward, and even before then. Like, we can't pretend that this started, you know, on one specific Tuesday in April. But there is something where I'm hoping that the momentum continues. And so there's frustration and fatigue, but also potentially, you know, a sense of hope there as well.
Right. You're a psychology major. When you look at the psychology behind this particular woman who decided to verbally abuse you, what do you think she was thinking?
It's a good question, and I just want to clarify sort of my area of expertise, because I'm not a clinical psychologist, so I'm not in a space where I can diagnose her issues, but as someone who knows generally enough about sort of those issues from the classes that I've taken, it's hard to put yourself in the mind frame of someone whose experiences you don't have. From the commentary that I've heard from people who are trying to help me identify her, it seems like she is someone who might be, you know, some level of mentally unstable, and may have been set off by the protests, may have felt uncomfortable, and may have been agitated. I still, though, believe that she's also racist. And so those situations don't excuse that behavior. And that's, I think, a critical point to make. There was another incident previously where she'd attacked an Asian American woman, and it was somewhat after Trump had used the phrase Chinese virus. And so there's kind of a possibility that if she's paying attention to what's going on and becomes agitated by it, her response might be somewhat fueled by that.
Right. Are you fearful at all of what's happening, not only to you, if this can happen to someone like you, then is anyone safe?
I am, and that's part of my response now, is I'm trying to figure out ways that this woman can be supported, but also that she can be off the streets, because she is a danger to people of color. I think that, and I think you brought up a good point, that if this can happen to me, you know, I'm the fact that my privileges don't shield me always. I think that's a critical point, because not everyone is as privileged as I am, and if this can happen to me, it can literally happen to anyone, and it is concerning. And also, I was lucky to be recording, and, you know, to get this right out there. But for everyone that's recorded, there's people who aren't, and so it is fearful.
Well, thank you, Catherine. I really appreciate you taking time out for this iWoman report, and thank goodness you had your camera available. But, you know, what happens when we don't have our camera available?
That's an important question, and I just hope that these stories continue to elevate this issue. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks. Good luck with your studies.
Thank you.